Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the English section of the 43rd Intervarsity Debating Contest. I'm the chairperson of today's contest, Jeffrey Hurley. Today's motion is, this House believes that volunteerism harms the development of children in developing countries. The proposition university is the University of Hong Kong. The table speakers are Mr. Jackie Fung as Prime Minister, Mr. Holmes Chan as the Deputy Prime Minister, and Mr. Arthur Pu as the Government Whip. The opposition university is the Chinese University of Hong Kong. The table speakers are Mr. James Lam as the opposition leader, Mr. Samuel Chan as the Deputy Opposition Leader, and Mr. Benson Lam as the Opposition Whip. Each table speaker has 1 minute to give his maiden speech. May I now call upon the Prime Minister of the proposition to give his speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jackie Fung, and I'm a Year 2 BBA Law student. Today, I'm very honored to have invited to represent our university to compete in this competition. And thank you very much for educators and for the audience to come here. I started debating in university just last year, so I'm very thankful that my senior teammates in the team has contributed a lot to our training. So I'm very thankful for them that I have this opportunity. So I thank you very much, and I hope today will be a good debate. Thank you.
Now, opposition leader, please.
So thank you, Hong Kong U and CHA Debate Society, for organizing this event, which is like the 43rd year, which is a large number. And thank all the members for attending this time to support our team, and also thank the judges to take the time to come. And this is probably the first and my last Intervarsity, so I'm very honored to be on stage. And I'm a little bit nervous, so let me go back and get prepared for a good debate. Thank you.
The Deputy Prime Minister of the proposition, please.
It is a very happy coincidence that the topic of today's debate, children development, also happens to coincide with this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Although today the grounds of our debate is not exactly the same as that of Malala Yousafzai and Kailash Satyarthi, we believe we can debate under the same spirit of protecting and nurturing children in society. And I believe today's debate is also interesting because taking in place of Hong Kong's context, where it appears that the children are protecting us far more than we're protecting them. So we hope today will be a good debate, and I thank all for coming.
The Deputy Opposition Leader, please.
I think if there is one thing that our opposition team and us can agree on, is that the Intervarsity tournament is a very special tournament that stands out from all the other tournaments that we have. It has an extremely good organization. It also always has a very distinguishable panel of judges, and we always get invaluable feedback from judges which we do not get in other tournaments. Therefore, I would like to thank once more for the 2 debating societies for organizing this event. I'm also very happy that the theme of today's motion is about children's rights. People who know me, which a lot of you do, know that I'm a person who is very interested in the arena of children's rights as well. Therefore, I look forward to this debate, and I hope that we'll have a very fun and interesting debate, and also a meaningful debate that awaits us. Thank you very much.
Now, the Government Whip of the proposition, please.
I've always watched the Intervarsity debates in the past, but it's the first time that I've participated in one, and I'm eternally grateful for this opportunity. Lots of thankings have already been done, but I would like to thank again the 3 adjudicators for taking your family time for judging, and thank for our support from our own teams, and also we wish that it would be a really interesting debate. Thank you.
The opposition vote, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, contrary to the government whip, I have never watched an Intervarsity debate before, so I'm very nervous standing here. At the same time, I feel extremely honored that CUHK has sent me here. I understand that everyone is very nervous and very anxious of the debates that's going to come, so I won't waste any more time. May the best team win. Thank you.
Thank you, all speakers. We would now start our contest. I would explain the regulations first. Each table speaker will speak for 8 minutes. The bell would be struck once at the expiration of the 7th minute, and twice at the expiration of the 8th minute, to indicate that the speaker's time has finished. Any table speech overrunning the limits by 15 seconds should be signaled by 3 strikes of the bell, which shall be struck continuously should it overrun the limit by 25 seconds. Please be aware that 1 point shall be deducted for every second of speech made beyond the 15-second mark. Also, all on-stage debaters are allowed to offer and accept points of information during the first 3 speeches from each side. The time limit of the points of information shall not exceed 15 seconds. No points of information can be given during the first and last minute of the table speeches. When the first minute is passed, a beep sound will be signaled by the timer. Any problems? If there is no problem, I now announce the debate would start now. May I now call upon the Prime Minister of the proposition to open the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's debate is about voluntarism harms the development of children in developing countries. Well, our side believes that voluntarism is about that some people pay a sum of money that they can go for a week or several days to these developing countries. They may have some kind of minor work about construction, like constructing a toilet or something, or like playing with the children. Or when we see that the problems with voluntarism, there are 4 aspects. First of all, it's about the skewed conception of self to these children. Secondly, it's about the long-term education system. It's destroyed by this system. And thirdly, it's about the importance and of having a better livelihood for these children. And fourthly, about that the lack of long-term established relationship between the child and the teacher. So moving on to our first substantive of why this kind of voluntarism have a bad conception of self to these children. It's about the imperialistic point that simply because of these tourists, they come here simply because they want to see the dire poverty of these children. And these children, there's a part of their aim is to entertain these tourists because they bring in money or some fun for them. So what's the problem? There's 2 problems with this. First of all, it's about fatalistic ideas and imposed on these children. When people come and let's say care about them, it's because they are poor, they are bad. That's why that when they really want that these people to come visit them, they lack the upward mobility to move higher to the rank, so that to improve their livelihood themselves. And the second harm is that it set the expectation for these children too high, that it's become an impossibility for them. When I see that people come here, they dress beautifully, they have a lot of electronic gadgets, they see that the standard of living of these people are really high, and how can they achieve to become better like them? When these children, before the arrival of these tourists, they do not know that they are the poor or the unfortunate one, because everyone in the village are equal, that they are having the same problem they have. But when these people come, they know that actually the outside is really good, but why I'm locked here in this poor village? And when these tourists, they just come and go, they can leave this miserable place. Well, they cannot. So we think that this imposes too high expectation to these children, and they lack the incentive to move upward. And the second substantive we bring to you today is that the lack of establishing that kind of relationship with these teachers and children. When these so-called teachers, they come and teach, and that they leave very soon, just a few days. That kind of emotional ties, the children is exceptionally important to these children because they are in the childhood. They're learning to love and to be loved. When they establish certain kind of care to other people, or other people start to care about them, they have to leave. So we say that it's only make them incompetent to love or to be cared by other people. So we say that it's actually very bad to this development of children. And thirdly, is the importance of structured education system. These so-called teachers, they come and teach them like ABC, but very often these travel agencies or these NGO, they're not targeting at the needs of these children because they are selling for these tourists to teach what they can, like which is not targeted at the need of children instead. So we say that they may learn ABC for a lot of times, and actually whether they teach something that is correct, there's no accountability because these teachers they are just tourists. They just pay money here to deliver education to them. So we say that for the academic development for these children, it is very bad for these children. Yes.
Do you not recognize the fact that a lot of these volunteers are going under the head of an NGO and they have to follow the curriculum and measures of these NGOs, which are specially defined?
This is essentially the difference between an NGO, an ordinary service program, and volunteerism. Why do you say so? Because for these ordinary program, the volunteers have some commitment, right? They have some training beforehand. But while for these tourists, they just pay some money to them. When they pay for them, these travel agencies or NGOs have to entertain them because this is the exact definition of tourism. So that's why we say that under this model, it just cannot achieve what they say that they still have the curriculum to follow. No, they're not. And about the fourth point, that's about depriving the children of the opportunity to improve their livelihood. Why do we say so? Because government lacked the incentive to improve their living conditions and the education system. When these tourists they come to their countries because the children in this country are poor, they lack the opportunities to school. That's why they bring in economic revenue. Like they need to transport, they need food. The tourists need food. They need to buy some souvenirs for their friends in Hong Kong, right, or in their home place. So he said that it actually is an important economic source for this government. So he said that why government need to change or to improve the livelihood of these children when they're enjoying the money that bring by these poor children, unfortunate ones. So he said that government do not have incentive, and there's no large scale of infrastructure or education system that we're going to bring hope to these children. And the second point is about parents. With this tourism, it's very ordinary that, like, when you take a photo with me, $2. When you come to visit my home, $5 each time. So when these parents, they can get some very easy money, how are they going to improve the living standard of these children? They just remain the status quo that it is our living place is poor. We welcome tourists come and take a photo of us. We try to chat with them how poor I am. I encounter a lot of difficulties with them. So even if the children have the opportunity, like they can get off the village and go to the town to have better education, but parents would think that, oh, if I leave the village, how is the government, how is the family going to make money? And it is very easy money, right? Just take a photo, just chat with them. So the parents will not have the incentive to improve these children, their livelihood. So we say that government, parents do not have the incentive, and other 3 points about no education system for long-term development of these children, and about the skewed conception of self, the fear of achieving high for these children, and that the inability to establish long-term relationship with teachers and children. So we say that it actually brings a lot of harm to these children. So based on these grounds, we proudly propose this ban to foreign tourism. Thank you.
Time used is 7 minutes 56 seconds. No marks will be deducted. May I now call upon the opposition leader to open the debate.
We believe that the government side, or proposition side today, mischaracterize the entire concept of foreign tourism. They think that it's just some people go there to volunteer and without follow-up action and without some trainings prior. While I, as a leader of the opposition, will clarify to you, A, what exactly foreign tourism is, and secondly, I will give some clarification on what the debate exactly today is about, with my several yardsticks setting into which actually benefit to these children's development. Before that, a few rebuttals. They have raised 4 points in total. Firstly, it's the skewed conception of self, which these people may feel imperialistic and etc. And that's why they feel inferior, and this is not good towards the children, right? According to the government side, this is logic. But we believe that, firstly, it's exactly these differences that these children can envision and see that they can move outwards, and they have some kind of role models to learn, to educate them. And this kind of outward mobility or outward differences is exactly the point to motivate these people to change, to educate, and to fight hard for themselves so that they can move to a different level, or they can change themselves. Exactly. Secondly, we believe that under current status quo, imperialism exists even with or without such kind of foreign tourism. It's exactly these people go into these countries to volunteer, to teach and talk and interact with these children. These imperialism, mischaracterization, and understanding can be mitigated and can be changed, that these people can correctly learn about different countries, etc., etc. Secondly, they mentioned that the government will not change because right now the NGO go there will help, and the government will think that these NGO is insufficient to help. Firstly, we always believe that apart from these NGOs, there are other organizations like the IMF, World Bank, and etc., and other different NGOs who continue to pressurize. And secondly, more importantly, after sending people to these developing countries to educate these children, these NGOs will have more bargaining power and more things to say, because right now they have the experience to press the government correctly on which exactly these children need right ultimately. Thirdly, and finally, they mentioned about there's a lack of long-term relationship, and that's why it's a harm towards these individuals right now after the volunteers have left, right? We want to clarify that firstly, these children know at the very first sense that they expected these volunteers to leave right now because the government, the NGO will already tell them beforehand that these people come for a period of time to educate you, to spend some time with you, so there's no expectation differences, and this is not exactly the kind of harm presents there. And secondly, we believe after these people leaving, there exists not a physical relationship, but another kind of communication, like they can be letter friend, pen friend, or they can communicate on the e-platform. We believe that with the presence of such relationship, it's still better than nothing in the end. So what exactly today's debate is about? It's not only about whether there's an absolute harm for these foreign tourism, but comparing two paradigms in a world with this kind of foreign tourism and without foreign tourism, which side has more harms on children development. And we want to clarify once again that foreign tourism is not only tourism in itself, it's volunteer, sit down. And we have to follow the model that these people will go to training before going to these developing countries, and there are also some follow-ups from these NGOs which are very comprehensive programs that not only like what they characterize and visit there and alone. So what do these children need to foster healthy development is what we care today. Under today's debate, with the presence of foreign tourism, can we enhance these needs or create more needs or deteriorate these needs? It's to compare which side is the winning side. We have 4 yardsticks set on this debate.
Firstly, is which side can provide a consistent and long-term monetary support for these children to sustain their education. Secondly, is which side better enhance the opportunity to access education. And thirdly, is which side is better in supporting infrastructure. And finally, towards which side is offering more mental support for these people to overcome the extra difficulty in these developing countries. And I will talk about the first three parts, and my partner will also elaborate on the moral principle behind. To the first argument, on the opportunity to access education. We believe there are two scenarios in these developing countries. A, these developing countries and these children in developing countries, they do not have children and teachers at the very first place. Under this paradigm, it's very good. It's obviously better because right now there are someone there to provide them knowledge, guidance, and motivational support. And it's very important in the young age of these children to have someone as a role of mentor for them. And to the other scenario, which they are already teachers, we believe it's still better with these people going to in forms of foreign tourism, because right now they can provide extra forms of learning from different education systems they have learned their knowledge, which they can teach the children differently, they can convey to them different knowledge, and this can excellently supplement to local teachers with the new value system being transisted to these children and worldview. Because right now, these developing countries have only a limited scope of value for these children, and this is very harmful for these children in the long term, because right now they are in the formative ages, because they are very easily to blindly believe in what they are being told, and that's why it's very important to let them have a wider worldview. To the second argument, which side better about consistent and long-term monetary support? We believe that there are many different kinds of necessary resources like food, stationery, etc. are needed for these children, and these resources must be ensured in order to make sure that there's no disconnection from access to a sustainable education system, right? So in order to make sure that these criteria are fulfilled, there is a need for habitual long-term donation from different kinds of donors. So the key problem is, can foreign tourism motivate these people to donate regularly, right? So in these people's mind, in order to motivate them to donate regularly, we have to transform the monies not into just numbers, but these people into a friend. So these donors are more likely to help a friend of yours other than strangers because of the emotional attachment come together with the foreign tourism that you experience. Because not only you can visualize their needs by experience, you can also create an emotional bonding between these people. For example, a lot of NGOs, they publish different kinds of videos to help them to visualize their needs, but not only the videos are enough. That's why some NGOs like Oxfam, they actively send donors to make sure that they at least get a chance to meet their children, to create such kind of bonding that can sustain long term, and this is more likely to motivate these participants to keep donating in a long-term basis to sustain such kind of supply of consistent and long-term monetary support. So finally, on to supporting infrastructure. We believe that these are very essential because right now, without them, we cannot send volunteers, not to mention other supporting materials. That's why we need NGO and some external parties to support, and these parties have to appeal to different donors for donation, because usually the infrastructure invest in requires a large amount of capital. So only with such kind of experience or such kind of real life interaction can, firstly, these donors can be appealed to increase in number because of the experience provided. And secondly, without such kind of understanding, there's no guarantee that these NGOs or these donors can recommend to do the right things for different government or different developing countries. And thirdly, more importantly, there's a larger bargaining power for these people to talk to the government and pressurize them to change, because they really know the situation now. They can quote their own personal experience, and that's why we are very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Time used is 8 minutes 6 seconds. No marks will be deducted. May I now call upon the Deputy Prime Minister for the proposition to speak.
The opposition lives in a fantasy world which A, volunteerists, they do everything, And second of all, when volunteers don't do anything, nothing is going to happen. We believe that this is not an accurate portrayal of the world as we know it. We believe when we're talking about visitors to these less developed countries, we are talking about three major types. First of all, we are talking about NGOs whose entire service capacity does not only exist of volunteers, right? We believe that there are people who are long-term embedded in those programs. For example, local infrastructures, NGOs such as World Vision, which hire locals, right? They hire locals and they have offices there, and they have long-term child psychologists who go through, for example, a few years of professional training, and when they go, they have a full expectation that they're going to be embedded there for, let's say, half a year to a year, right? We say that these are the professionalized daily operation, which consists of the majority of, let's say, World Vision's operations, right? Even if they say that World Vision hosts volunteerism programs for kids like us, we believe that there's only a minority. And even if that's the case, on this side of the house, we would rather that those programs do not exist, and World Vision use that sum of money to accompany their usual regular program with, say, professional child psychologists, that kind of thing. What is the majority of the real volunteerist stuff that is actually happening in our real world? We see that they are organized mainly by travel agencies, right? Eager to make a buck, saying that, oh, this is a slum, let's go visit it, and let's say help the people there, right? Even if we're talking about volunteerist trips organized in, say, HKU, organized by, say, Social Sciences Society, right? How do they do it? They also approach a travel agency to do it, right? So we see that this is a very commercialized arrangement, which comprises of the majority of volunteerist programs. So we must establish that there is no dichotomy in the saying, oh, either we have volunteerists or we have nothing. That is not true. Which is why this already takes down a lot of James's arguments, right? He says, oh, you have more effectiveness in pressuring the government, right? Yeah, you have more experience. We say, yes, but those benefits do not pertain to volunteerists. Remember, when you're talking about volunteerists, you're talking about a person like me, right? I'm not going to have a more bargaining power in pressing the government of Cambodia. No, we're talking about the bargaining power as residing with, say, World Vision and their administration, right? If this is in fact the case, why did they even require volunteers to acquire this bargaining power in the first place? We don't believe that is the case. We believe that this same bargaining power is better acquired by high quality service by trained and qualified professionals, let's say child psychologists and that kind of thing, right? And also moving on, we believe that, for example, the point about access to education is again the case, right? It's not all or nothing.